this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make the Halloween Charmer bracelet. Now I'm going to be using some charm chain here, and this little skull chain is going to be really great. So I have about 7 inches here, and as you can see there's these little tiny little charms. Now what we're going to do to embellish that is we are going to use some lovely Halloween charms from TierraCast, and we're also going to be using some Preciosa Bicone beads in a little black and orange, very traditional colors there of Halloween. And I also have a little magnetic clasp that I'm going to use. I have my head pins here and my jump rings. So as far as tools go, all you're going to need is a pair of round nose pliers, a pair of chain nose pliers, a pair of flesh cutters, and I'm going to also use a pair of bent nose pliers to help me with those jump rings. So if you have everything ready to go, let's go ahead and get started. Now, our charm chain is sold by the inch, so I have 7 inches here, and as you can see, my little magnetic clasp here is not going to add too much to the end. So just a little bit, little under half an inch, I'd say. So go ahead and buy your charm chain at the length that you want your bracelet. If you want to utilize some of these little guys as little charms or makes a pair of earrings so it hangs really nicely like that as well, I would just add on an inch or two, so you'll be fine there. All right, so we're going to have our length done. Now, what we need to do is we need to create our little baubles here. So I'm going to take one of my little bicones and one of my head pins here. And today I'm going to be using some gunmetal because I want everything to match really nicely. So I'm going to slide that all the way down to one end and come in with my round nose pliers here. Now I'm going to take that and just bend it back ever so slightly. And now what I'm going to do is wrap that wire up and over the top of my round nose plier and rotate my pliers and bring that across to create my simple wire loop. Now I can remove my pliers, come in, and snip that off. So now I have one of my little baubles ready to go. And for my scrap wire, I'm just going to set that aside. So we're going to repeat that for all of our bicones here. So I'm going to do that and then we'll be right back. All right, so I actually decided that I wanted to do 7 little beads there. I know I started with 6, but I'm rethinking my design a little bit. So let's go ahead and figure out that design once and for all here. So I'm going to take my charms and bring them down here because they're going to all align here for me. And one thing I want to think about here is that I do have a couple of different styles of charms. So I have the cat and the gravestone here. They're a little more rounded, as well as the pumpkin. And I also have the witch here that's a little longer, and then I have the bat and the zombie that are longer lengthwise there. So I want to make sure that's kind of balanced out. So you can kind of see that I've put them in a little bit of an order that I think I'm going to like here. Now, when we come to the end with our jump ring on the ends, we want to make sure that we leave a little bit of space. So we don't want to put the charm too close to the edge. But if you just want to kind of see that we have 6 charms here, so I'm just going to kind of evenly space them out. Now, the great thing is that we have so much happening here, with the chain. And if you can see, the chain is actually just a very link heavy chain. So we're just going to be using jump rings to kind of sneak everything in there, as well as our little simple wire loops. So you can go ahead and sort of give or take, find that center point. So let's go ahead and kind of do that there. There we go. And perfect. I'm just going to lay that right down. Like I said, there's kind of no rhyme or reason to this. You can just kind of add stuff in. So now what I want to do is I want to add an orange one. And you can see now why I've added that extra one, because I want to end it on both sides. And a black one to each. So I'm just going to leave this up here at the top so it's not getting too crowded down there. And again, when you wear this, it will kind of move around a little bit. So you'll notice I have a little bit of a larger gap here because that witch is going to leave a little bit extra space. So now all we need to do is come in with our jump rings here. And let's actually start by adding the clasp to the ends. So go ahead and separate your clasp, and you just kind of separate them just like that. And let's go ahead and get that jump ring on there. All right. And I'm going to add it to a little jump ring there. Sometimes everything gets a little magnetized, so you just got to be careful. Now when you're adding on your piece here to the end, you'll notice that your last link will have two of those little skulls. So just go ahead and separate them so they fall on either side of the clasp. And then you can just kind of hold it like that. And we're gonna loop on our jump ring. And again, trying to keep our magnetic clasp happy and out of the way. So we're gonna come back in there. There we go. And just kind of close that up. Now these are nice thick jump rings, so that's why I recommend using the bent chain nose. But we also want to make sure that we have a nice good closure because our chain is actually a little thin. So we want to make sure that he's not going to slip out. All right, so that's one side. I'm actually going to pick this up and kind of move it over here so it's a little easier for me to see. So we're going to repeat that whole fun process on this side and add our clasp to this side. And remember to separate those last little charms there. Perfect. Again, making sure we have a nice good closure. Lovely. All right, so now we can go ahead and start adding in our charms here. So let's just go ahead and start with our jump rings here. So I'm going to start with our little witch. And again, just kind of, you can either be really specific with this if you want. You can count out the number of links, or you can just kind of wing it like I'm going to do here. Mostly because this particular design has so much movement in it as it is, that you really aren't going to notice if one thing is off by one link or not, you know. The idea is to have fun. All right, I am working from the center out though, because I want to make sure that I am going to have enough space to do the things that I want. All right, let's go here. I think that'll be good. Coming in and closing up our little jump ring there. Now we do want to make sure that it's closed nicely. Again, we do have some thin chain here. All right. And our clasp is clasped now, so we're just gonna separate that. All right, so that's looking pretty good so far. So let's move to our little bat on this side. And I'm thinking that I do want to keep things a little closer than I had anticipated, which is actually kind of good. So now we can come here. And the good thing about jump rings is that you have plenty of them. Now you can open and close them probably a couple of times before you start wearing down the metal. So if you do place something and you need to, you're like, oh, you know, I didn't really like that once I got a good look at it, you can take it apart if you want. So you can see that, like, because of the way the witch is, her kind of tail, so I've left a little extra space on that one side there, if that makes sense to you. All right, so let's go on to our zombie over here. Now you can do this with as many charms as you want. Let's say you just wanted to use, you know, the black cats. These are all sold in pairs. So that's another little tip for you as well. If you wanted to create a second bracelet that's exactly the same, you would have all the supplies to do so. All you would need to do is just purchase your extra inches of chain that you'd need. So if you wanted to make two 7-inch bracelets or 7.5-inch bracelets, you would just need, I'd say 14 or 15 inches. I would maybe order 15, that way you don't lose any when you're kind of cutting and adjusting. All right. So yeah, so you can see that I'm leaving some space on the ends there for my pieces to get to that space. All right, so let's add my little kitty cat over here. And maybe one closer, I think. There we go. I think that's better. This is a really nice and easy project. I know it kind of takes a little bit of that design eye to kind of get it right, but really all we're doing here is opening and closing jump rings and creating simple wire loops. And you'll see that with our simple wire loops, we're going to open and close them exactly like jump rings. All right, now this one I'm going to go a little wider on. I want to leave a little extra space. And then you'll see how our beads are just going to fill in all those little gaps there. All right. Lovely. So now we have our chain. I actually did pretty good there, so I'm just kind of lining them up. So we're seeing each of them fall. And I just wanted to make sure that this space here was about the same end to end. All right, so now let's start coming in with our little pieces here. Now, all we're going to do with our simple wire loops, and I like to just kind of do this with my fingers, is we're just going to open that up a little bit, and we're going to slide on one loop, close it up, take one of our dark black ones, just open it up, and just kind of alternate going all the way down the bracelet. And again, you can see that I'm not really being too cautious of exactly where I'm placing all of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the rest of my crystals there, and I'm going to show you the finished result here in just a moment. All right, so you can see how those little bicones really fill out that space, so you don't really even notice if you're, one or two links off in either direction, which is great. I want you to feel like you can have the freedom to have fun with this design. But I do want to try to show it to you when you're wearing it so that you can see just how kind of fun it really is. So when you're wearing it, those charms are going to flip around and you're going to have all that space, and then you don't have any bicones or anything heavy back here at the wrist. But again, like each of these little charms has a front and a back, so it's a really great little design. And again, Halloween doesn't have to just be the orange and black. We've seen a lot of people use green and purple, so there's so many fun things you can do with this design here. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can see all of these pieces here and even more tutorial videos by heading over to Beadaholique.com, and be sure to hit that subscribe button below to get all the latest from Beadaholique.